Space Goat! Space Goat! Space Goat! Coast to coast.
A good number of astronauts have worked in New Mexico or, for a time, called the Land of Enchantment their home. 5 of them were born or grew up in the state. Space Goat takes a look at these men.
Number 5.
Mike Mullane. Born in Wichita Falls, Texas, Mike Mullane first called New Mexico home when his family moved to Albuquerque after his father's polio diagnosis. Graduated from St. Pius X High School, he earned engineering degrees from West Point and the Air Force Institute of Technology. As a WISO, or Weapons System Officer, Mullane flew 134 combat missions in Vietnam. His heart's desire, though, was to be an astronaut. Unfortunately, Mullane says, NASA responded that his eyesight wasn't up to that required of pilots. When the agency began hiring mission and payload specialists, however, Mullane's dream became reality. He flew aboard 3 space shuttles. STS-41D in 1984, the maiden flight of the Discovery orbiter. The crew's duties included deploying 3 satellites and filming IMAX images. STS-27 in 1988, carrying a Department of Defense payload. And STS-36 in 1990, which carried additional DoD payloads. Mullane spent 356 hours in space and authored Riding Rockets: The Outrageous Tales of a Space Shuttle Astronaut.
Number 4.
Drew Gaffney. Born in Carlsbad and a Carlsbad High School graduate, Drew Gaffney went on to earn his MD at the University of New Mexico. Eventually, he became a visiting senior scientist with NASA's Life Sciences Division. After various other duties and 15 years' experience in cardiac research, NASA named Gaffney a payload specialist. In 1991, he flew aboard STS-40, the Columbia Space Lab Life Sciences mission. Gaffney logged 3.2 million miles in 146 orbits over 240 hours, helping to complete more than 18 experiments. The mission produced more medical data than any previous NASA flight.
Number 3.
Sid Gutierrez. The man who became a master parachutist didn't get chosen for sports much in school. However, as part of the National Collegiate Championship Air Force Academy parachute team, he made more than 550 jumps. Born in 1951 in Albuquerque, the Cold War motivated Sid Gutierrez to an astronaut career. The Air Force Academy graduated him at the top of his class. He qualified as a pilot and was the first Hispanic to both pilot and command the space shuttle. Gutierrez piloted the STS-40 mission in June 1991, which conducted tests on human long-duration flight. In April 1994, he commanded STS-59, which carried the Space Radar Laboratory, conducting studies on the changing global environment. Gutierrez became CAPCOM, or Capsule Communicator, for subsequent shuttle flights.
Number 2.
Ed Mitchell. He may have been born in Hereford, Texas, but as a boy first in Roswell and then in Artesia, New Mexico's Ed Mitchell lived a cowboy's life of riding, roping, and branding until crop dusters buzzing overhead captured his interest. Mitchell stepped out of the saddle and climbed into the cockpit. He was piloting airplanes before he was 14, although illegally. Described by others as an egghead, he earned degrees from Carnegie Institute of Technology, the U.S. Naval Postgraduate School, and a doctorate from MIT. Mitchell next attended the Air Force Aerospace Research Pilot School, was first in his class, and then he joined the Navy. By 1966, Mitchell had 5,000 hours in cockpits, 2,000 of those in jets. NASA began training him to fly in space. In 1971, he went to the moon aboard Apollo 14. Mitchell was the lunar module pilot, and that made him the 6th man on the moon.
Number 1.
Harrison Jack Schmitt. Picking up rocks on the moon was a bit tougher than those Jack Schmitt gathered while growing up in New Mexico. Schmitt stumbled. He fell. Mission Commander Gene Cernan warned, "You've just got to take it easy until you learn to work in 1/6 G." Now, that was, Schmidt replied, a very embarrassing thing for a geologist. When Apollo 17 splashed down in the Pacific Ocean on December 19, 1972, the astronauts carried 244 pounds of rocks, more than the other missions had retrieved. They also covered more distance riding on a lunar rover and spent more time on the surface. Schmidt is still the only scientist to walk on the moon and the next to last man on the lunar surface.
I was strolling on the moon one day in a merry, merry month of December. May.
He fared better during his second outing, proclaiming as he stepped down the ladder, "Oh, what a nice day. There's not a cloud in the sky." He and Gene Cernan excitedly radioed they had discovered orange soil. On the last walk, the astronauts collected blue-gray breccias and basalts. A sample is displayed at the New Mexico Museum of Space History. Thanks, Space Goat, for a look into these fascinating New Mexicans who went to space. Be sure to follow and like us on Facebook and YouTube, and check us out on nmspacemuseum.org. Better yet, visit us in person in Alamogordo. You never know what's new at the New Mexico Museum of Space History.